Go ahead.
I've always been treated very graciously by my Muslim friends. But I wonder if you could explain how women are treated generally within the Islamic faith.
Excellent question.
For example, there are women behind us, separate, and I can understand partly why. But are they given all of the respect and admiration and equal privileges as men?
Beautiful question. The sister here said that she's always been treated very graciously by her Muslim friends. But the question is, are women given equal rights and the proper respect and honor that a woman deserves amongst the Muslim community gender? Question, right? So first thing I would say that feel free to go and talk to our sisters in Islam and ask them. When we look at Muslim women in America, nobody's forcing them to cover, nobody's forcing them to be Muslim. It's a free country, they can make any choice they want. But the fact that you see them in the mosque, that you see them practicing their religion, you see them covering, you see them praying, shows that this is something that they choose. In Islam, we believe in giving everybody their rights. And everybody has rights. And everybody has the divine rights that Allah has given them. Meaning it's not just my opinion and your opinion, it is divine. In Islam, the one that has the most rights upon you is a woman, is your mother. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was asked, who has the most rights on you? He said, your mother. He said, what about after that? He said, your mother. He said, what about after that? He said, your mother. He said, what about after that? He said, then your father. I mean, look at the honor a woman is given in Islam. In Islam, those are my sisters. Those are not pray for me to pray upon. Rather for me to pray for them. Different pray, right? So this is an honor. When we don't have mixing and things, this is so that everybody focuses on their prayer. Everybody focuses on the religious obligation. It's not a better or worse situation. For example, and again, I'm going to be very honest, and I believe in honesty, and I believe in openness, and I don't believe in hypocrisy. Okay? Biologically and psychologically and in many other ways, there is a time where men want to show off for women. It's just a part of the way the human race, even in animals, you see they'll different dances they'll do or puff up their chest or whatever. They want to attract a mate. And women will do similar things to attract a mate, even if they don't admit it, right? You know, they will, I'm honest, I'm sorry, right? So, this is a part of the human experience, nothing wrong with it, right? But we want to make sure it's in the right place, in the right way, right? The mosque is not a place for me to be like, I'm about to start praying, guys. Oh, so sore from working out. You don't want to do that. I used to go to church when I was younger. I'm going to be very honest. And it was, I went to very different types of church. One of them was a Christian church. And basically, a lot of the young people there were trying to find connections. That was really what we were doing, to be honest. Yes, there was Bible studies. I was the only one that paid attention, very honestly. All my friends that were Christians were not paying attention. I was like, hey, I got this question. They were like, shh, just trying to meet a girl here, but I got to ruin it for me. And they would say things and do things to attract the opposite gender. And a lot of the focus really was, even if they didn't admit it, like, a lot of girls would really dress up really well for church, and it wasn't because they wanted to show off to God, to be very honest. A lot of men would dress up in certain ways because they had that. For us, we want to keep this as a place of prayer, of solitude, of meditation, of a connection with our Creator. Right? So we keep things in a way that separates, so that women are not worried about, oh, what guy is looking at me and how am I dressed, and men are not worried about, how am I going to flex it. And a lot of that sometimes is subconscious. I studied, my minor was in psychology, right? Sometimes if you just do a social experiment, right? You look at a guy who's just going to get up and go to the gym where there's only men, or only women gym, and then you look at how they dress when they go to a co-mixed gym. Psychologically, you'll see a difference. And a lot of times no, I just do this, I want to look good for myself. Well, when you wake up in the morning and it's a day off and you're just sitting around watching Saturday cartoons, you're not dressed up. Right? But if you go to the beach, I better get my spray tan and this and that. Why? Because we have that. Places of worship should be free from that. You shouldn't worry about, as a woman, how are men going to look at me, or when I'm bowing and prostrating, is somebody looking at my body? A woman should be able to worship her Creator with that freedom. And a man should not be in a mosque worried about how is he going to find a spouse or a thing. He should be worried about his Creator. So we have this separation. It is not better or worse. It is not, that somebody is closer to God. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told us that there is no difference between white and black and red and anything except whoever is more pious. That is what grants us closest to God. Men are not better than women in their closest to God. Women are not better than men in their closest. It depends on their piety. There can be a woman that is much more pious than any of us sitting here. That could be much more knowledgeable than us sitting here, right? Or there could be a man who's more knowledgeable. That is all your relationship with your Creator. When we talk about rights, I believe that Islam gives women rights that Western society doesn't. I'll give you examples. When we look at a right to not be judged based on appearances. No law is going to talk about this. But I was in management, and I can tell you from experience, and you can do social, there is a Netflix documentary, I think it's called 100 something, 100 people, 100 humans or something, and they do these social experiments. And they did experiments with women that were makeup up, dressed in a certain way, and others that were not. And people would judge them based on their looks. They did an experiment where they had a group of people unbeknownst to them that were told about a crime committed by somebody. And they showed two different people, two different control groups, one of them being in what we would consider to be an attractive outfit and dressing, and the other to not. And they said, how long would you give them in prison? We gave different times. They give the person who wasn't as, quote unquote, socially considered to be dressed well and attractive, longer times for the same crime. When you go to job interviews, people tell a woman, you have to dress this way, even if they don't do it verbally. And this is the hypocrisy of the Western society, that we do things. The Me Too movement has exposed a lot of that. People were told, no, you have the right to go and be in movies and things, but they didn't show them that the place where they would be harmed and would be judged and then abused by such people like Weinstein and others. In Islam, we believe that that shouldn't be the case. A woman that comes and she's honorable and she's covered in a modest way, and then she speaks to you and then she interviews for a job, you can't judge her on how good she looks in a pinstripe skirt anymore. You have to now judge her on her ability, on her piety, on her brain, and what she brings forth from her personality. And that's a right I think has been taken away, even if not verbally. Like, we in society don't say that a secretary should be attractive. But do a social experiment. Go to the top CEOs of America and find their personal assistants and just look at it. Okay? Be honest. Why do we have to have this hypocrisy? Nowadays we have this push towards different body shapes amongst models and things. But again, it's a very surface push. In reality, we still have an idea of beauty that is pushed down on people. And in Islam, we don't have that. We don't say taller or lighter skinned or this. The beauty is from the inside. This is when a Muslim woman here, for example, if she asks me a question, I don't know what she looks like. I'm not judging her on her looks. I'm not judging her on how well she can do her makeup or what size clothes she fits into. I have to listen to the question and respond to it just based on her intellect, on her mind. And that's the respect I have to give her. What we see in many churches and many other places is the abuse of women that is swept under the table. And I mean, I'm not talking about any particular church here, but I do know in San Diego, for example, many of the churches that I went to, pastors ended up having affairs with people in the congregation and things. And this is not something that happens just like you walk in and suddenly you're like, let's have an affair. No, there is a progression towards it. You start looking at certain things, you start having private conversations, you start having, and that progresses into something. Islam believes in prevention, right? We don't want to go there. If a woman has a question, she can ask her question, I can give responses, I can give her scholarly advice. Why do I need to go out and have dinner with her privately to do that? I don't. So we keep that as a safeguard for us. Good? Clear? Go ahead.
So what about